Hello, my name is Ambassador Samuel Emiaso. I will be presenting a topic today on managing diversity, otherwise called diversity management. I'll be looking at ExxonMobil with specific reference to Esso Service Centres in Southeast London operation area. And this is a dissertation project presentation of the Business School, Middlesex University, London. The aim of the research was to evaluate the levels of diversity management within Esso Service Centres as applicable to the oil and gas industry, and also to be able to make recommendations for future diversity management within the organization and to the general oil and gas industry. The scope of this research was limited to Esso Service Centres within the London Southeast operation area. And that is obvious because ExxonMobil is a very wide company with the headquarters in Iville, in Texas, United States of America. So the operation here in the UK, United Kingdom, is just with the brand Esso, and we just want to be limited to a scope that is manageable in order to get quality results from the research. And the objective of this research also was to review literature that relates to the diversity management within ExxonMobil as a company, and also within the areas that we're taking as our operation area of this research, which is Esso in the UK, and to appreciate the level and evaluate that level of diversity within Esso Service Centres. It's also to investigate the causes of imbalance of diversity management within this organization. Why is it that the diversity in the work staff is not balanced? And also want to examine best practice in management of diversity, and also to make recommendations for future use of diversity and for better diversity within Esso Service Centres and ExxonMobil or other companies applicable that might benefit from that research study. Now, the analysis of the problem and challenge included the fact that management of diversity is an international issue that is of interest to various companies across the world. And also it is such that it has been noted that there is poor balance in diversity within the workplace. And these are the major areas that need to be addressed. And it's also important to stress that managing diversity is a conscious decision that management have to play. Management have to take it, so it's a conscious decision to be taken. If they want it, then they will actually go for it. If they want to play down on it, then they want to just ignore it. So that's one aspect of the challenge. At the same time, it is also worth to note that we want to focus on ExxonMobil, which is an international oil company, and also narrow it down to Esso Service Centres, otherwise called filling stations, in the southeast of London in the United Kingdom. The methodology for this research was based on the fact that we have secondary data, information that have been put into various literature, both in internet, in publications, in journals, in articles, and even in books. So these are secondary data that will be looked at and reviewed as applicable to diversity management. And also, the researcher decided to also take primary data by going to visit these service centres in the southeast of London. And that was successful because of the use of structured questionnaire, or interview questions. And that was with the staff of Esso Service Centres within this area. And finally, it's also to be able to analyze the various data that were gathered and with the mind of putting out the findings and making useful recommendations towards this company, Esso Service Centres, and may be applicable to other oil companies that deem it fit. Now, the findings that came up from this research included the fact that staff diversity was not balanced in Esso. And we could see from the findings that there was an overall staff strength that had 65% male and 35% females. That obviously is not very balanced because the male population is wider compared to that of the female. And the essence is to ensure that we encourage a balance between the males and females in the workforce. Now, we also were able to find out that the diversity in managers across the various centers was moderate. In some places you had some managers, and in some others you didn't have managers. For instance, there were a total of 18 managers in all the centers, out of which you have 6 females and 12 males. So obviously the males were having 67%, while the female were having 33% approximately. Now, this will be seen in the slides as we go ahead. And we also noticed there was poor diversity in overall staff within the demography, and there were no records of sexual harassment among staff. Now, if we look at the slides, we can see that the overall staff diversity ranged from the male and the female, and obviously on the pie chart you can see how much the males have exceeded 50% and gone on up to 65%, and obviously the female just occupying the 35%. Now, that's not very good for the organization because of the public image it presents as though it's a masculine environment, and we want to encourage that more females will be. Now, the diversity in the individual service centers was also very interesting to the extent that, like seen on the histogram, we can see how much the level of balance was. It was not very, very good, because in some centers you have just males and so much in population. Like we could notice in Lampoid Vale, for instance, they had 18 males while the female were just 7. While in some others, such as Lakedale, they have 7 male while female were 10. And also in Clifton Lee, they have 12 males and 8 females only. We can also notice that Grove Park was about the best that had a very good balance of 12 males and 11 females. So you can see how well it was. In Blackheath, there were 4 males and 2 females. So the balance was a little bit good. But in overall there, it was not that very convenient to say that there was a good balance. Now, in the level of managers, from the chart, we can also notice how the fact that the managers were not very well balanced, like earlier said. So we could notice that in centers such as Blackheath, there was only one manager, and that was a male, no female manager. In Lampoy Vale, there were 3 managers that were male and 1 female manager. In Foxbury, there was no single manager at all. And also in Lakedale, they had 1 female manager and no male manager. So the balance is not very okay. In Clifton Lee, they have 2 male managers and 1 female manager. So it's just Grove Park that had the best of balance, with 2 male and 2 females as managers. So that was quite interesting and quite encouraging. And on the demography of staff, it was a little bit more challenging, because one sector or one section, one demographic region tended to have overpopulated the whole area. And from the histogram that will be seen in this slide, you can see how much that was recorded. So we have a kind of total record of 67 Asians that are in the workforce, with 32 Europeans and just also 37 African and the Caribbeans in their population. There were no record of the Americans and other regions in the world that were in the workforce. Now, going to the various centers, we can notice that the demography in the individual service centers was actually also very challenging, because we can see how that at least 3 centers only have Asians among their staff, and that was in the region of Foxbury, in the Park Deptford Center, and also in the Blackheath Center. All staff were Asians, and that's not very good image for a company as Esso, because it presents a wrong image about their demography. Now, in some other centers, there were good balance somehow. As we could see in places like the Lampard Vale, you have 8 Asians, you have 9 Europeans, and 8 African and Caribbeans. Now, that was a very good balance between this set of demography of people from across the world. Now, in some other places, such as Park Deptford, there was only 5 Asians and no Europeans, no Africans, like I earlier said. In Grove Park, you had 10 Asians, have 7 Europeans, and also 7 African Caribbeans. So that was a fairly balanced situation there. We also noticed that in Bermondsey, there were less Europeans, but 7 Asians and 6 Africans, just 2 Europeans that were working in Bermondsey. So the balance as well wasn't very well. We begin to wonder why the Asians were taking the whole place. I tended to see the importance of their entrepreneurship role and play in life. They are more inclined in the entrepreneurship kind of. So it is also noted that most of the franchise owners were also from Asia. So you can also see how that they probably have put in a lot of people from their own place. Now, going further, in conclusion, in the centers, there were no women in most of these centers. Some of the centers, no women at all. And in some centers, there was a moderate level of diversity between men and women. The average mix of managers in the centers was medium or average, while there was no sexual harassment amongst that, which speak good. In recommendation, we noted that Esso management should encourage inclusion of females in their workforce, and also to give better orientation to the franchise owners about diversity management. We also noted that the managers and Esso management should be able to encourage researchers by being open to release information and data to them to assist them. On the overall evaluation of the project, it was a success research despite the limitations faced by the research during the period. Limited time, as in getting information and getting data from the people, booking appointments and things like that with the service center for interview, and no funding. So it was self-effort by the researcher, and it wasn't very easy. However, the bureaucracy as well in ExxonMobil did not help, because it took too long of approval time to be able to get things done. And finally, overall, it was a successful project, and it showed a good level of diversity management, which can still be improved in Esso Service Centres. Thank you very much.